thank you for your assistance when I was governor. Let me commend the Mercatus Center as well as George Mason for this valuable exercise. I know this is the 10th anniversary. There is one difference between Richmond and Washington. In Richmond, we actually had to make our budgets balance. Which seems to be a new concept here. And I say that in a very ecumenical, bipartisan fashion. Let me just add that at the front end. Let me again thank everyone from the Mercatus Center and George Mason for this very important work. And I apologize again about being a little bit late, and I know that there are awards being given out. And I'll just make a couple of very brief comments, recognizing that as a 115-day freshly minted senator, I'm still learning my way around and still trying to get things, trying to figure out this new position. But you know, an adage that I know Case Senator and that when I had the opportunity to be governor of Virginia, tried to live by was that it's an adage that I brought maybe from the business community that, you know, that which gets measured gets done. And too often, I think, in government, we don't put appropriate measurement standards in place. We've got, you know, we too often talk at the kind of grandiose policy level or with wonderful goals, but rarely do we put in place the kind of true measurement standards by which we can gauge if we are making progress towards the lofty policy goals we all aspire to. This Senate and this scorecard, which has now got its 10th year anniversary, takes a very, very important step in that direction. It was mentioned, he and others were very helpful when I was governor of Virginia, where we not only, I think, did balance our budget, but we also put in place a lot of appropriate standards that helped earn Virginia the designation as the best managed state in the country. You who are engaged in these kind of efforts at the federal level realize that this is a challenge that often goes without a lot of recognition. Politicians and policymakers like to make these goals, but then their eyes start to roll back in their head when you actually have to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work on how you put these standards in place, and we actually get the measurements and track that on a regular basis. I am very hopeful the new administration, the Obama administration, will match its rhetoric in the campaign in its early days with a real commitment to accountability and transparency. I think we've seen some good first steps. I think the recovery.gov website in terms of how we measure the enormous amount of resources that are going to be coming out from the Recovery and Reinvestment Act. How we measure that beyond just in terms of the number of jobs created, but in a real way, particularly in some of the areas that we've been talking about for years where we need to make investments, whether it's in infrastructure, healthcare, IT, some of the energy savings, conservation areas, broadband. You know, how do we really truly get our arms around the appropriate measurements there? I would give them good marks on initial starts there. I would give them less good marks on some of the TARP bills. Matter of fact, I continue to get frustrated with the lack of transparency we've seen in the financial rescue bailout plans, the TARP funding, to the point where I actually put in my first piece of legislation with Senator Martinez and Senator Brown to try to make sure that all of the disparate information around TARP funding is collected together in a common website that's commonly understandable to policymakers, to Americans. I can say, for one, as I travel around Virginia, most Virginians think we've taken that now close to $700 billion of TARP funding and basically flushed it down the toilet, as opposed to understanding that where those dollars have been invested and what kind of rate of return we're going to get. And then again, it's not rocket science, it's something that we can solve if we have the kind of transparency that Case Center and others strive for. What also, and beyond the kind of measurements of good works of this group, an area where I'd love to see the center focus, and I know there's the various departments are going to be getting these awards coming forward, but what I am most hopeful for and I think where all of us who care about transparency and accountability and standards, we really need to try to engage and work with the administration, is that if we're going to really see the kind of accountability we'd like, and hopefully maybe the kind of budget balance that, again, everyone aspires to, we're going to need to look at how the federal government operates, and as we look for savings, not just in the normal approach, which is, let's see which programs can be eliminated. For anybody who's looked at the operations of government, anybody who's looked at the operations of business knows that in many ways, the real large savings are going to be across agency savings, I at least believe, in 3 areas: in technology, in procurement, and in HR. And one of the things that has gotten me excited about the new administration, at least in terms of their designees, has been the creation of a chief performance officer, the creation of a chief technology officer, and the creation of a chief information officer. I may be a little bit biased since all 3 of these folks are kind of from the greater Washington and Virginia area, but these 3 gentlemen, Jeff Zients at CPO, Anish Chopra at CTO, and Vivek Kundra at CIO, if those power positions are truly empowered, I think they can take a lot of the good work that the Mercatus Center has done and actually implement it across agencies, across programs in a way that could have really a great deal of meaning, great deal of value to the shareholders in terms of the American people, but also to the hundreds of thousands of people who work in the federal government day in, day out, and oftentimes don't get the recognition they deserve for doing good work and producing a good quality product. So I've got here my normal formal comments that I was supposed to, I guess in senatorial say, I'd like to submit these for the record. And rather than giving just the attaboy stuff, I thought I'd give you what I think is the challenges going forward, recognizing that the one thing about the Senate job that I've also not figured out is they keep everything, no meeting or session I have goes more than 15 minutes. Since I'm designated to introduce a new Virginian who's up for one of the assistant cabinet positions, I'm going to have to head off in about 10 minutes, but I thought I would be happy if you'd like for me to take a couple of questions. And again, congratulations to George Mason, my congratulations to the Mercatus Center, and most importantly, my congratulations to those of you in the federal government who've received this very, received these awards, and for the scorecard that hopefully will continue to advance the causes of accountability and transparency going forward. So my thanks, and be happy to take questions.
Thank you, Senator.